we had about an 84% close rate for a paid consultation exam. And I was usually doing 75%. So it actually outperformed me.
Yeah.
And literally at that aspect, I said, I'm never doing a live seminar ever again.
Genesis Nation, welcome. I'm super excited and even like extremely curious, and very newly have met Dr. Aaron Gumm with Blueprint to Practice Automation. I've been shortening it as BPA. Is that okay to do that?
That's great. That's great. It's easy for
Okay.
me too.
All right, good. Yeah. So as we're talking about Genesis and BPA, so Genesis Nation, and I've only recently been introduced to you, and just seeing what you do. Your company is one of the fastest growing companies from 2021, 22, and 23 at 500 Inc. 500, which is awesome. So you're obviously doing something right in the chiropractic profession and in business at large. So can you start with? I'm going to dive into your history in a second, but really tell our audience like what is BPA?
Yeah. And the easiest way to kind of explain that is you break it down into two operating systems. We have our clinical operating system, and then we have our business operating system. And when we look at the clinical operating system, we're teaching doctors how to add clinical niches within their practice around chiropractic, right? So we're not replacing chiropractic. We're building around chiropractic. And then we take those clinical niches and then we automate them through systems and processes. So we automate the seminar, the day one, the day two. Once they become a patient, we automate the education. And then we've really worked hard over the years before we launched the company to make all the protocols. We call them hybrid clinical protocols, which means that they're 90 to 100% online and at home. So they're scalable. We kind of get rid of those glass ceilings that all of us chiropractors start hitting when we get up into the 500-600 patients a week type of practice. But it's easy to scale. And then we're helping another subset. So if you know, chiropractic reaches about 8 to 13%. I mean, the percentage changes every year, but it's right around there, right?
But regardless, it's a small percentage.
Yeah. So what I was looking at that, I was like, okay, we reached this percentage. I have a great practice, but how can I reach the other 87%? And what we did is we just created clinical protocols that widened the gap to 87%, because that's the only thing the medical model did right is they niched out. So why can't we do it as chiropractors and change the front end message and then teach them chiropractic on the back end? Doesn't mean that we can't give them chiropractic. We're helping them with the chronic condition, then adding chiropractic and teaching them chiropractic on the back end. So that's like the clinical operating system. We systematize it, we automate it, we reach more people, we bring more people in the office. And then we have our business operating system, which is really, we're just teaching them business principles. So we have 72 different business tools, all the way from mission, vision, values, your 3-year vision, your 1-year vision, how to have employee reviews, how to report KPIs, how to track KPIs. So they're very situational, because I don't know about you, but when I was in practice, I said, I have all this information in my head and I wish my office manager knew it. So
Yeah.
we took that information and made these tools that the office manager and staff can use to know what to do and how to do it in those aspects of the business. So that way we can back the chiropractor out of the day-to-day and let their operations manager, their office manager run the practice with the proper tools. And that's really our business operating system that we
Awesome.
teach.
So how did you go from practicing, and I'm going to circle back, but how did you go from practicing chiropractor to now you're CEO of BPA, obviously? What was that? Can you give me that story and tell me
Yeah,
that
so I'll
journey?
kind of back it up to how practice automation originated. The original thought of the light bulb came on. So I had 40 neuropathy patients coming to my office, and we did these 2 to 3 times a week. I did live seminars in the office, just like dinner talks or stuff like that. And I woke up with the flu that day that we had 40 patients come to the office for a seminar, and there was no way I was going to make it to the office. And I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? Well, I had created a webinar that I'd send patients that lived 2 hours away. I would send this to them. It was just a voiceover of me over the live talk that I usually did. And I would send it to them, and so they would come to the office pre-educated, and they could do everything in that one day, right? Because most of our protocols are at home. And I said, okay, so I told my staff, I said, this is what I want you to say before. I want you to play this in the PT room and just line and put people in the normal seminar. I want you to do this for the introduction. I want you to push play. This is how I want you to close it out. Well, we had about an 84% close rate for a paid consultation exam. And I was usually doing 75%. So it actually outperformed me.
Yeah.
And literally at that aspect, I said, I'm never doing a live seminar ever again.
Yeah, you could be home with your kids, and this is now
Correct.
did you already think like evergreen, like I can start replaying this over and over?
Well, oh yeah, for sure. We never did a live seminar again. We still did them in the office. That's our model. We still do them in the
Okay.
office to keep it, personalized and experience. But my staff ran that entire process. And so I started from seminar and then I looked at, okay, day one, day two, patient education. Then I started formulating product protocols to send them home and online, automate the patient curriculum once they become a patient. So I had all these systems just for my practice, getting back to your question, just for my practice to systematize it. I was literally in the consult ROF and doing seminars. That was my life. I mean, I felt like on a hamster wheel.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, and it
yeah,
gets boring for thinkers and creators and entrepreneurs. It
it
does.
does. I'm like, how can I get myself out of this process and how can I make it better? So that's what we did. And short story, I let one of my buddies use our systems and processes. And at the time, it was just me. Right now, so now we have our own production team and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these videos. But I let him use it. He was 30 minutes away from me, and he actually it was like, dude, I'm really killing it with these systems. I'm like,
That's great.
okay, I got something here.
Light
Uh,
bulb.
Light bulb on, and then literally I spent a good year straight creating we have 16 different clinical niches that we teach doctors, and I systematized those and then started selling the program. And then I got up
Awesome.
to 50 clients, and I had my staff running my practice for a couple of years, um, while I was trying to build Blueprint. And then my associate moved, got married, and my office manager quit, and it was kind of my fault because I let the wheels fall off the clinic because I was just 100% in on Blueprint.
Got
But
it. I got it.
but
I know that story well. I get it.
yeah, yeah, because
That's
I
thank you
was
for sharing that. Yeah.
yeah. So it was exciting time, and we went from 50 docs to we're at 600 active doctors now.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and in essence, like you have a couple different verticals where someone could come on and do practice management with you or business management, and then also implement those clinical tools, or do you have to do both
Yeah,
if you're with
so
BPA?
BPA started with just the clinical operating system. And that's it. But what we found was we were teaching doctors to scale to heights of 150, 200, 3, 4, 500 $1,000 a month, and they were scaling past their business operating system. So we were seeing that to where they were seeing this many patients, they were collecting this much money, but they weren't really dialing in on their business operating systems. And I think you and I can agree, we're just really not taught that in school,
At all?
unless you just have a knack for business.
Well, yeah, and
Um,
even with the knack for business, and I'm glad you're bringing this up because like you could walk around the street, bring in patients, put them in the door, right, or get them. Like you can put asses in seats,
yeah,
and I could do the same thing. I could go to any city in the world and do that,
yeah,
but that's different than business operating systems.
it
That's
is.
like a grit that you and I potentially grew up with, in different environments, which can apply, but business tactics, metrics, KPIs, operating systems, hiring, firing, those are all like, I'm so glad that you're doing that. And that the meetings, like how do you not have death by meetings? How are your meetings more impactful and direct?
Yep.
So
Yeah, and
that's
that's
an excellent piece.
we really created it from necessity, and it's not a matter of do they have to do both. They need to do both, and
Yeah.
we didn't charge our clients for that. We just added it a whole another business inside our business, and we never charged any of our clients for that. We launched those about a year and a half ago, and it's really working out. Our clients really like them. It gives them business structure. They can jump on calls with our coaches and discuss them. But
Awesome.
we have curriculums. I teach every tool myself in the platform, so they know exactly how to do it, and how to implement it.
I think I'm hearing, kind of reading between the lines, that you've read the book Traction and implement some of those.
Oh,
Or
traction, EOS, good
okay,
to
yes,
great.
yeah,
The scaling up. I've always been a kind of a student of that craft since I
yeah.
opened my practice, and As a company, Blueprint Practice Automation is an EOS company.
Oh, great. That's cool.
Once we started creating and implementing systems like that, our company grew dramatically. Just having, and we were doing a great job. We were self-implementing it, but we just looked at that and said, hey, you know what? Chiropractors need this.
Big time.
So
I know
said,
we have a common friend in EOS as well, I think, and Jill, and she was
oh yeah.
yeah, she's brilliant with this stuff. So I'm glad that's awesome. So you're implementing that within your system that's helped your company scale and build and grow.
So
Awesome.
we've just created some great tools for clinicians. So they make sense in a practice. They make sense on what type of employees they're hiring for their practice. Comp plans. We're probably up to 85 different tools now, but it's just really systematized around the chiropractic practice.
Yeah, awesome. And I love the concept that, it's, you're not holding to dogma. You're saying, all right, like neuropathy is what gets people in the door.
Right.
Like, and chiropractic is the back end of that. Just to clarify, so meaning if we can go back, let's say neuropathy, for example, you're running a neuropathy seminar in a practice. The doctor is not there. That's done on like a video TV screen, and the staff is actually operating it.
Yep.
So that's it. So that's the hybrid that you're discussing. It's like an at-home sort of.
Well, that is the process when they come in the office. So patient comes in, they go through, and it doesn't have to be a seminar. We have a one-on-one process as well that they're going through a day one automated education. So if you can just, instead of the doctor doing a live seminar, we use video. We make it interactive with the intro and close it out. And then we have an automated day one education process, automated report of findings process. So literally we can plug a case manager in that and do that entire process and not need the doctor at all, unless you're doing a chiropractic exam. Obviously, they have to do that. But they're saving. If you look at
so far at this point, I don't know if AI is getting there yet, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see pretty soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, robot adjustments.
Yes.
But the hybrid comes down to the patient is doing 90 to 100% of their care at home, a little in the office. Unless it's just if they're adding a full-blown chiropractic care plan, obviously you can't get around that.
Right. And I saw you have elements of dropship. I'm gonna jump into that with automation and stuff first. So, but before we jump into that, so we talked about the scalable elements of the clinical portion, studying the business. Talk to me about innovation, because you're obviously like would you consider yourself a technology company, or is it a management company, or?
Man, on paper, we're actually a technology company, but we've built a lot of business principles and curriculums around it to manage the business, because technology allows you to innovate and scale. But when you scale, you have to make sure that your foundational principles of your business are sound. So that's when we plug those in underneath it. I can consider, innovation is, I guess if I would say if I have a superpower, I look at complex things and make them very easy, but have a bigger impact in the end result. That's what I feel like I'm good at. I look at something.
I'm quoting you on that. If I need your help, I know who to call now for
and leverage.
Yes.
How can we leverage something to get 10x the result, but not have anything to do with your time and energy to do so?
That's a lot of times AI and technology is a solution for that.
It is. I mean, us as a company, we've leveraged AI to the kilt on just content creation, not for our protocols or nothing, but just marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're
from ChatGPT to even video stuff, and like there's amazing technology out there. So even I saw something I'm curious about. You talked about replicating the doc. And is that what you're speaking to, is the doc that would typically have to be on site to give a report of findings or a seminar? Is that what you're referring to? Okay.
Yep. And even down to the treatment. So there's a lot of programs out there that you can implement neuropathy or knee pain or shoulder pain or plantar fasciitis or metabolic syndromes, weight loss, gut health, fibromyalgia, stuff like that. But it involves a lot of high-end lasers and PEMF devices in the office.
Creating time for money too, like having someone has to
have an employee on that machine.
Yeah.
The cost you 20 to 30 grand a year. You also have $60,000 to $80,000 machines in your office that cost you. So your only capacity is how many machines you have. So if you're somewhat successful, you're going to have 3 or 4 of the $80,000 machines. So we scaled it with FDA cleared devices that can be used at home 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day if you need it. If you look at the frequency of care, someone coming in 3 times a week for 90 days versus someone treat themselves 1 to 2
times
times
seven.
per day for 90
Yeah.
days. Clinical results are they're not even matched.
That's awesome.
And then you make that patient independent to their condition and not dependent on your office. And you can
Well, it's
charge
like it makes an overall, I don't know if this is the right, like a psychologically healthier practice for the doctor as well, because it's like it's not an ego driven practice. So you get the flu and you're out. It's like these systems are already going. That's awesome.
Yep.
So how about technology? And you mentioned another term, staff driven process.
Yep.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So my goal when we built Blueprint to Practice Automation is to make systems and processes that are reproducible, which means that you don't have to replicate you don't have to have a bunch of clinicians in there doing it. You can be staff driven. So when you have the automated processes that staff can put their thumb on, the education process is already dialed in. You don't have to worry about coming and being doing that seminar, doing that day 2 education process. The video does that for you, and that case manager can control that. So when we think about it, when we build a practice, we always keep the end in mind, regardless of what goal it is, right? Even if we never want to sell our practice, but we're always wanting to build a business that everyone wants to buy, right?
Yeah,
so when keeping that end in mind, we have to create systems and processes that back out that doctor out of those systems and processes. Because when we get to that point, we do want to sell our practice. The doctor is going to have to go with the practice, or whoever's buying the practice knows that they're going to lose, 30 to 60% of the patients, because it's a personality driven practice.
Yeah. And have you seen, and this may be too soon, but I would love, because I'm looking at other industries, right? And people who sell their businesses, they're getting they're upset if they have 8 times EBITDA and they want 10 times EBITDA. I haven't seen those numbers in chiropractic practices, but have you seen some good sales of the practice with these systems in place?
Yeah, I have. And the bonus of when someone wants to buy a practice that is a BPA practice is they know the systems and processes aren't dependent on a personality. That may be a high cash practice, but they know that practice is a system that they can plug anyone into and run that practice, and it doesn't have to be the personality. So what we are creating within Blueprint is we're starting to work with students and helping them with business acumen, so when they get out, they're prepared. But we're certifying BPA associates.
That's cool.
Those associates can actually go plug into a business within our ecosystem, or if they want to buy a practice, they're buying a BPA practice. So we're trying to create this ecosystem within Blueprint that
I love it. I love this, the whole concept of the ecosystem. So you're thinking like large scale, just for people who are running better businesses, and their patients are getting much better care, for sure. Clinical results. Educate, manage patients virtually. We talked about that. Hybrid at home clinical programs. We did talk about that. And then staff training. Now, do you have like all of these things? They're all basically blueprinted, I would say, through video, and you're basically showing them that those videos pretty simply and quickly.
Yeah. So the basics with what we train on in a chiropractic practice, day 1, day 2, phone training. Those are 3 things that if you're not training on it, just start somewhere, right? Because you're literally losing money every single day if your phones aren't being handled properly.
That's the number one thing, man, is phones. Like
the gold mine of your practice.
Yeah. I mean, because anything that you're putting in place, even if they're scheduling online, there is a phone call, or that's a better touch point. So I've seen many offices with very poorly trained phone team.
There's always, if you're in our group, we're selling, $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 care plans. It depends on how many niches that we combine, because you can combine a lot of these niches together. But so if you're dropping 10 calls a month because you're not answering questions properly, or
that's 50 to 70 grand.
70 grand.
Yeah.
But
I also think I think like you're selling those level of plans, they're cash plans. People want to talk to people when they're spending $5,000 out of pocket and $7,000. So
they want to be educated properly too.
Yes. Yeah. And do you feel that So that's part of your
Yeah.
staff training is they have to
So,
educate.
so what we do is we have a phone curriculum that they go through, phone training curriculum, a day one curriculum that they can go through, and a day two curriculum. It's really, they can go, and these are all on our platform. So it's not like they can do it on their own time. They can, and we have a grading system.
Okay.
Also, we have a phone simulator, which actually simulates a phone call. Like a phone pops up on the screen, it
Oh, that's
rings,
cool.
they have
Yeah.
to answer, and then a question pops up of like, it'll say something, how do you answer this? And they're going to have to pick the right answers. So they can actually go in there daily and just say, let me go through the phone simulator and just get things properly before I start jumping on these phones.
That's awesome. I
Same
love
thing with
that.
day one.
I don't even like to call it role playing. I call it real playing because
Right.
I mean, you're like embodying the actual experience instead of just reading a pamphlet. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. And then we do the same thing with day one and day two. So practitioner comes in, patient says this, and then they have to answer the right questions. If they answer it wrong, we're going to pop up and tell them why it's wrong and what the right answer is. And if they answer it right, we'll pop up and tell them why it's right. So it's just a really good training mechanism that your case manager, associate, or yourself as a doctor can go through and just get sharp on the day one. I really feel like a lot of chiropractors obviously come into our group and like, oh, I'm great at day one. But when it really comes down to it, they're just really going off their natural talents, which is fine. But it's, at some point, you have to really train on something. We're just like athletes, and the only
And then systematize it too. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, they are masters of their crafts, but they still work on the fundamentals, and that's why they're the greatest of the great. And the only difference is if we don't train as chiropractors, they don't win they don't win a Super Bowl or an NBA championship. We don't save a life. So there's way bigger stakes if we don't
Totally.
train and we're letting these patients walk out the door and we're not making an impact on on their
I think
lives.
I'm paraphrasing or quoting Steve Franson. I think he said, like I see patients in between training, which is, I love that
It
quote, which
is.
is awesome. Like that's like,
Yeah.
we got to be black belts and samurais and not just adjusting that. Hopefully can get, most of that out of the way in the first couple of years. And then it's, and then it's the business acumen. So, I mean, we've really covered innovation, practice automation, but tell me about liberation, because that's a big piece. Like, how do I get that freedom, that peace of mind? Like, really, what is this technology and these systems and processes? Like, how do they provide that?
Yeah, and it really comes down to how many hats you're wearing as a clinician or a business owner. So building BPA, the whole time is like, okay, how can I take less responsibilities and less time off the doctor's plate? So automating the seminar, say you're doing 3 of those a week. If you're busy, you should be. You're saving about 15 hours there. Automating day one, let's just say that's a 30-minute process or 20-minute process, and you have 40 new patients that month. Well, you're saving a ton of time there. And then
Yeah.
day two, the same thing. Let's just say it's an hour savings in that total process of 40 hours a week of just you being in the consultation room saying the same things over and over again, the repetitive things. So all I took is the repetition of something and automated
Automated.
it, and then made
Yeah.
it personal with the process that we're still engaging with the patient. So just that alone saves a lot of time where we can reinvest our time back into staff training. Maybe you don't want to be open as long, or maybe you want to, go on a vacation not more often. So that's a lot of time over a year's time. And then hybrid clinical protocols, pushing the care 90% at home or online. I mean, I remember one day I was sitting in my office, and I was, we're used to seeing, 500-600 patients a week with chiropractic, and we were still seeing a good amount of chiropractic. But once we get into the niches, we didn't have to see that many. I was seeing that many out of necessity.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of I've spoken to thousands of chiropractors, and it's really not going against the philosophy. We're in the people business.
Yes.
But I remember sitting in my office, and I was looking out in the rehab area. We had just collected probably $100,000 more from the previous month, but a third of the patients were in the rehab area, and obviously we had new patients in the waiting area. But it was an eerie feeling of like I was so used
Because
to
you're used to seeing so many bodies there.
a lot of bodies
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
generate a third of the income.
Yeah.
It was like we flipped the model upside down and scaled it. And at that point, I was like, man, this is really, really good. And that way we took our hours down. We didn't have to be open as long.
Awesome.
But that alone gets rid of a ton of glass ceilings. You can still see a great amount of chiropractic patients and help a lot of people and still do what you love. But at some point, as a business owner, we have to work a little smarter to get to our goals without sacrificing our health and our family. Because
because I mean, basically, you probably agree with this statement that like burnout doesn't have to be a badge of courage anymore. Like you're actually offering a solution where burnout does not have to be the end game. It's like the theory of aging even is like we just rot. But no, that's bullshit, especially when, because like we're getting smarter as we get older if we're doing the right things and we're practicing. So man, this is thank you for your mind and for continuing like to grow and expand. And like I'm excited that we're connected as companies and colleagues. Genesis Nation, if you have not checked out BPA, Blueprint for Practice Automation, we're going to put everything in the notes, as well as emails, all that kind of stuff. But check out Dr. Aaron Gumm's company, Blueprint, if you haven't, if you're looking to expand the practice and fit within that chiropractic model. Thank you so much for this. This has just been this is just the beginning, man. I'm excited. I could talk to you for hours. But
and the thing is the worst case scenario is you'll jump on a 15-minute call with one of our team members, and we'll literally just ask you a few questions. We're not going to sell you anything. It's more we're really a conversational company where we're just going to talk about what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and sometimes it's not a good fit. But the best thing is we're colleagues after that call, and if it's something you want to learn more about, we have a deeper dive for you to go through a training, and very non-pressure process. Our team's phenomenal. You will love them, working with them. So I thank you for having me.
And I've got to meet you and several of your team members. Everybody is very relational and there was no pressure. It's just like, hey, what's up? Let's have a conversation. So again, like our Genesis Nation users, people who haven't seen your stuff, if they want, they just start with a 15-minute consult and see if it's a good fit. Win-win.
Yep. Just go to the link that you guys are going to post, and then we'll go from there. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.